The UK-based newspaper The Sun has shared some footage they say they've gotten from Reuters, and what it is a priest in front of some Ukrainian soldiers. You'll find out who they really are in just a minute. And they're praying over the loss of life in one of these towns near Kiev, and this was relatively recent. So they're showing all of this devastation, and as all of the Western media has done, they're portraying Ukraine as just this innocent victim that evil Russia has brutalized for no apparent reason, based on a pack of lies, including the lie that Ukraine has Nazis. That's what they're claiming. It's a lie. It's not true. And yet here's Reuters pointing their camera at 3 or 4 Ukrainian soldiers, and can you see what's wrong with this picture? Can anyone spot what's wrong with this picture? This isn't the most obvious point in this video, but it already is bad enough. This patch. Whose patch is this? This is Pravy Sector. This is a neo-Nazi, or I say Nazi, military organization inside Ukraine. It works parallel to Ukraine's armed forces, and even the BBC, this is from the BBC in 2014, Ukraine's ultra-nationalist right sector, and they say that they're neo-Nazis. Their leader is Dmitry Yarosh, who's getting into politics. And you know, the context here for neo-Nazi is critics at home say the party's inflammatory rhetoric and violence is helping Russian media to depict Ukraine as overrun with neo-Nazis who threaten the Russian-speaking population. Because right sector, Azov, C-14, IDER, all of them are actual Nazi organizations. Some of them have been officially incorporated into Ukraine's armed forces. So that, even the Western media will admit that, yes, these are Nazi organizations, they're horrible, but they're claiming they have no power in Ukraine, and they're just a small percentage. But there's this video here, also out by the BBC.
They're the same slogans as last year. Ukraine above all else. Glory, glory, glory. But in the mouths of the right sector, they take on a more sinister aspect. All of these people bearing the banners of the far-right group, these people who helped overthrow Ukraine's pro-Russian president a year and a half ago. The banner of the right sector harks back to a Ukrainian nationalist movement from the 1940s. They say the colours represent the blood of Ukrainians spilt upon their country's black soil. Their critics call them fascists and neo-Nazis.
And that they are not only in the east killing ethnic Russians in the Donbas area, but they're also in the west fighting Ukrainian troops to assert their power over the government.
Now they're flexing their muscles. In recent weeks, the right sector has been involved in firefights with Ukrainian security forces in the west of the country, hundreds of miles from the front line. These clashes in Mukachevo on the border with the European Union were about control of lucrative smuggling routes, but it was also a show of force, a signal from a strong militia to a weak government. Don't cross us.
And they admit all throughout the video that they're asserting themselves over this weak government and the amount of influence that just right sector alone wields. Let's continue with this video and see what else we can find. From Reuters. This is Reuters and The Sun from the UK. So that's right sector. These are Nazis. Now we're looking at the back. We're looking at the back. And I'll get to this one right here, this circular. It's not the Black Sun. I'll get to this in a minute. And I'll get to this one in a minute because it's not so clear. But please note this red patch. Keep a very close eye on it and notice how it is blurred. Whoever published this video blurred it out because they don't want people seeing it. Tell me if you can tell why they would have done that before I explain it more concisely. Keep an eye on it. What does that look like to you? Does that kind of look like maybe an eagle? And ask yourself, why is it blurred? Because it is an eagle. It's this eagle. It's the Nazi eagle. It's the Nazi eagle with the Nazi emblem, as clear as day, right there on this man's arm, alongside all of these other Nazis. Every single one of them has right sector patches on their arm. and he's got a Nazi eagle, and they've blurred it out. They blurred it out because they don't care about the truth. They're covering the truth up. They're depicting Ukraine as innocent victims and Russia as ruthless aggressors coming into the country based on lies that there is a serious Nazi problem in Ukraine, and that constitutes a threat not only to the Ukrainian population but also to Russia, whom Ukraine shares a border with. Let's continue watching this video. So they have grieving people, and I'm sure there's a lot of innocent people grieving and suffering in Ukraine. I will not take that away from Ukraine, there's no doubt. Here, this right here, these runes, these are Viking or Nordic runes, and you might say, well, Brian, that's harmless. I mean, you don't know what that means. It's this symbol right here, the Vegvisor. Maybe I'm saying that wrong. And it's a collection of spells, the so-called Hund manuscript. The book has nothing more than this one sentence to say about it. If this sign is carried, one will never lose one's way in storms or bad weather, even when the way is not known. And I want you to consider this article and another that I'm going to share with you. This is from the University of Alberta, not the University of Moscow. White supremacists are misappropriating Norse mythology, says expert. Scandinavian studies professor debunks idea of racial purity that makes racist extremists identify with Viking culture, because there is this problem of white supremacists co-opting, misappropriating Norse mythology and Norse symbology. Here's another one. This is from a website called the Norwegian American: Viking Symbols Stolen by Racists. And they're going to show you a whole bunch of them. And it's something that's very evident in Ukraine, as seen here. I mean, that's why he has that on his back. It's not because he has any sort of genuine connection to Nordic traditions. It's because he's a Nazi and he's misappropriating it, just like the Nazis did in World War II. This was a process that began in Ukraine and has continued to present day, 2022. And the next one is entirely unambiguous, so keep an eye on it. You're going to catch a glimpse of it right there. And then they're going to show it much more unambiguously. So right here, you got right sector, clear as day, and then they have SS Galician, and then this is SBU. This is a patch that would be worn by SBU agents. I don't know if he's actually in the SBU or not. But this is SS Galician. This is unambiguously a Nazi symbol. This isn't even a neo-Nazi symbol. This is from World War II. This is a unit in World War II that was part of the Waffen-SS, determined by the Nuremberg trials as a criminal organization. So let's dig into that a little bit. Here's Haaretz. So people can't accuse me of citing Russian media or Putin propaganda. This is from Haaretz. Ukrainian official changes tune on unacceptable march honoring SS unit, because that is a thing in Ukraine. They honor Waffen-SS war criminals in Ukraine to this day. And they wear Waffen-SS unit patches on their uniforms to this day. And right here it says, I'm sure that the absolute majority of Ukrainians do not support it, writes the director of Ukraine's Institute for National Memory, marking a small but significant shift in Kiev's approach, because there is a serious Nazi problem, and even Haaretz is taking note. This was published May 4th, 2021. So this is an ancient history. This is very recent. They said the head of a Ukrainian government body long known for its work rehabilitating the images of Holocaust collaborators condemned an ultranationalist march in memory of a Ukrainian SS unit last week. What SS unit is that? Can you guess? I think you know already where we're going with this. Marking a small, if significant, change in Kiev's approach to the similar aspects of its national history. Around 300 people paraded through the Ukrainian capital last Wednesday to mark the 78th anniversary of the establishment of the 14th Waffen-Grenadier Division of the SS, also known as the 1st Galician, a German unit implicated in crimes against humanity. Many of the division's troops were members of the Organization of Ukrainian Nationalists, OUN, a group which is celebrated in contemporary Ukraine for its anti-Soviet activities. And what does their flag look like? It looks like this, which is the same flag Right Sector flies, because they're all Nazis. And this is a member of Right Sector with an SS Galician patch on his uniform, glorifying not neo-Nazis, Nazis from World War II. And this is what the Sun and what Reuters put on film, published, and showed the public without explaining to them what they were looking at, and going through the effort of blurring that Nazi eagle, knowing that probably at least that most people are going to immediately recognize and start asking questions. So they blurred that out, and they hoped that their audience was too ignorant to catch everything else that they were seeing. And this is what they have done for 8 years, since the Euromaidan in 2014, where this red and black flag flew during the Euromaidan, and they said that, oh, they're just pro-democracy, liberal freedom fighters. They didn't mention that this is the flag of Nazi collaborators from World War II, and that this is still a serious problem in Ukrainian society to this day, up until 2014, and then to this day it's only gotten worse. So I just thought I would point that out. Well, I guess let's just finish watching the video here. SS Galician, unbelievable. And Right Sector, Nazis, these are Nazis with guns in Ukraine, and the Western media is going to act as if Russia has no reason at all to come into a country that it shares a border with, where there are Nazis everywhere you look, with guns, threatening them and threatening ethnic Russians living in Ukraine. Something that has been going on for 8 years now, and the BBC, to its own admission, back in that video from 2015, they were fighting the government. They had significant influence over the government, to the point where they could take up arms and push them around physically by force. And this is an issue that has been ongoing ever since. And the Right Sector head, Dmitry Yarosh, he ended up being a military commander. He left Right Sector and he became a military commander. But of course, all of these Nazi organizations have either been officially incorporated into the Ukrainian military, like Azov, or work parallel to it.